76, big two-wheel horsepower, the 1570, or if you really want to get into the spirit of things, the limited edition 1570 with bicentennial styling, the spirit of 76. Your first inclination might be to compare the 1570 to the 1370. Well, we are going to do just that, to prove to you that this big two-wheel power is not just a warmed-over 1370. We'll start right here at the radiator and work back to the drawbar. The radiator height is 3 inches greater and the capacity is 2 quarts more. Let's take a look at the engine. It's a 504 all right, but a hybrid of the ones used in the 2470 and 2670. You know what they say about hybrids. They're more vigorous than their parents. The cylinder head and 17-millimeter nozzles are the same as the 2670. So is the head gasket. It has the wider fire ring. The sleeves are hardened like the 2670. The rated engine speed is 2100 RPM. Big power requires a free-breathing engine, so the entire intake system is new. Notice we've even moved the pre-screener outside of the hood to make sure there are no restrictions. As you can see, this 504 is truly a hybrid. To handle this big power, we designed a new transmission from the case down through the gears and bearings. Let's start with the power shift. 2 more plates have been added to C2 and C3 clutch. C1 also has an additional 2 plates added. The C4 clutch plate has new friction material. This is a new high-energy absorbing material. The RPS carrier is longer to accommodate the greater clutch capacity, just like the 2470. Bigger horsepower means more torque transmitted to the powertrain. So to hold this torque, we have forged the RPS sun gear on the shaft. This will not affect your splitting procedure except that the transmission input shaft will remain in the transmission when the tractor is split. The 4-speed gears are wider to handle this horsepower, as you can see when compared to a 1370 gear. The shifter forks are squattier and stronger, and the pads are forged as part of the fork on the 1570. The shifter collars are smaller and stronger. The smaller collar has less of a tendency to cock and bind, providing a smoother and more positive shifting. As an added safety feature, we have designed a neutral start switch on both shifter shafts. The adjustment procedure is the same as the 24 and 2670. The 1570 has a bronze thrust washer between each shift collar, which will ensure long life on the face of the gear hubs. Naturally, bigger horsepower means stronger differentials. So we designed a 4-pinion 1570 versus a 3-pinion 1370. Look at the size of this 1570 spiral bevel. The only change in servicing of the differential is the method of setting the rolling torque on the pinion shaft. The details of this are in your 1570 service manual. We've even designed more brake capacity to hold this big horsepower machine on field turns. We added 1 more plate than the 1370. Shown here is the increased capacity of the 1570 final drive sun gear over the 1370. The planetary gears are wider also. Look at the comparison we have here. To support this larger final drive, we have a heavier, stronger rear axle housing and ring gear. To harness this power, we naturally had to increase the size of the rear axle from 3 3/4 to 3 7/8 inches. new 30.5 by 32 tires are available to make sure there is enough rubber on the ground. Also new for 76 is the park lock parking brake on the 1270, 1370, and 1570. Here is how the park lock works. The lock is operated by the range lever. You simply move the range lever into neutral and over into park position. When you move the range lever on the console, the connecting linkage either engages the lock arm with the differential ring gear or releases it. Here's what some of the iron looks like. The PTO for the 1570 is entirely new, from gear teeth to cover. The 1570 PTO gears are helical cut gears to provide more gear teeth area in the same space, as well as quieter running gears under load. There's even a new hydraulic PTO brake. Here is how the brake works. Whenever the tractor engine is running, there is a constant supply of oil to the PTO brake modulator spool shown here. This oil is supplied from the power shift diff lock side of the flow divider valve. Once the oil reaches the PTO brake modulator spool, it flows around the lands of the modulator spool to the brake piston, pushing the brake piston against the PTO clutch carrier, applying the brake. To release the PTO brake and engage the clutch, the operator moves the lever on the operator console to the engaged position, allowing oil to flow around the PTO spool and the flow divider to the PTO housing. As the oil enters the PTO housing, it flows around the top of the brake modulator spool to the clutch piston. Once the cavities in the clutch piston are filled, pressure begins to build. At approximately 15 to 18 psi, the PTO brake modulator spool moves, blocking off the oil supply to the PTO brake. This pressure continues to build until it reaches 200 psi and locks up the piston and the clutch plates. When the brake modulator spool moved, it uncovered a return port to the sump, allowing the captive pressurized oil behind the PTO brake piston to return to sump and release the brake. Now that we have seen the new powertrain and the 1570, let's look at some of the other new features. First, the all-new 7-way adjustable Easy Rider seat. The Easy Rider is available on the entire Agri-King line for $76. The 7 operator adjustments are: the back tilts plus or minus 5 degrees. The arm rest pivot, up or down. The operator weight adjustment. There is even an indicator that tells you when the adjustment is set correctly. Simply sit in the seat and tighten or loosen the weight adjustment knob until the indicator just shows the adjustment is then correct for your weight. There is a fore and aft seat adjustment of 4 inches. The seat cushion height is adjustable 4 inches. The seat cushion angle is adjustable 4 degrees to relieve the back of your legs. A 20-degree swivel right or left. How about that? The 2 adjustments that service technicians should know about are: first, the swivel friction adjustment, which controls how easy or hard the Easy Rider will swivel. To adjust, simply tighten the nuts on the swivel shown here snug. Then, back them off 1/4 turn. Some operators may want the swivel looser or tighter to accommodate them. Simply back off more or less than 1/4 turn. Do not use grease on the swivel, as it will only collect dirt and wear faster. Use only light oil sparingly to lubricate. Second, the only other mechanical adjustment is the gear mesh adjustment on the weight control knob. This adjustment is made by loosening the 2 bolts under the front of the seat cushion. To allow the bracket that supports the small gear to slide fore and aft, the small gear can be moved into tighter or looser mesh with the large gear. An approximate setting is to move the small gear into full mesh with the large gear. Then pull the weight control knob back about 1/16 of an inch. The gear mesh will determine how hard or easy the weight control knob works. The steering hand pump has also been changed in the seal area. Here are what the new seals look like. The seal, backup washer, spacer, and dust seal are arranged in the hand pump in the order shown here. To install the seals, there is one important precaution that must be taken. That is to use a soft plastic tape over the drilled hole in the shaft before installing the seal. The purpose of the tape is to act as a thimble and prevent cutting the seal on the edge of the hole as you install it. There is a seal kit available for earlier Model 12 and 1370s. The number is A45535. We have even increased the size of the hitch mounting bolts in anticipation of the bigger loads this tractor is capable of pulling. The transmission case is even tapped with right-hand threads on the left-hand side and left-hand threads on the right-hand side to make sure bolts won't work loose. We said this tractor was new from radiator to drawbar. Well, we went even beyond the drawbar to the new convertible quick hitch coupler. All new for '76. A Category 3. Category 2 convertible hitch coupler. This means it will handle both Category 3 and 3 narrow as well as Category 2. And easy to change too. Here's all it takes to change from one category to another. Just loosen up the clamp bolts on each end of the coupler. Then remove the locating nut and bolt. Now, simply slide the coupler ends either in or out. When the cross member is telescoped out, and in the upper leg holes, you have a Category 3 setting. When the cross member is telescoped in and located in the upper holes, you are set for Category 3 narrow. What is Category 3 narrow? This is a new category designed primarily for implements like the row crop cultivator, which are big and heavy enough to require Category 3 large pin size, but must be narrow like Category 2 at the hitch arms so they don't break off plant leaves. Here is another point of interest about Category 3 narrow. When hooking up to Category 2 implement, if it has too high mast holes to hook up to, you can raise the implement further off the ground if you use the Category 3 narrow position rather than Category 2. The Category 2 position is obviously with the cross member telescoped in and using the lower set of holes in the legs. So, no matter what flag your 1570s work under, you will have to admit they are big power from the ground up.